Welcome to the Football Guys Dynasty Show. It's me, your professional nerd and the busiest geek online, Jagger May. Then with me, as always, is our Dynasty captain, Jeff Bell. And then with us, we continue Football Guys Trend of Victoria Week. We have Victoria Geary in. If you watched us on our Sunday morning live show, we had her on. And just like the rest of us, she had some hits, she had some misses. It's another weird week of football, which brings us to our Dynasty Risers and Fallers, aka who pooped the bed and who didn't this week. And we'll start with Rashee Rice. This is again, when I put players like this on a fallers list, I understand that he's injured, folks. But that does come with reaction and fallout. I have him as wide receiver 18, which is blasphemous for some folks. It's sinful, downright crazy at Dynasty. But like, I actually was going to move him up, but then with the injury, I just know how stock market works, and I'm going to go ahead and get ahead of that. Jeff, you have him at wide receiver 10. Are you concerned or shaken that he's going to be Mahomes' guy next season and the same production that we've seen these first 3 weeks?
No, I'm not concerned about that at all. I think he's going to be the primary receiver for the Chiefs offense as long as he's available. And knowing the way Patrick Mahomes is best friends with Roger Goodell, I wouldn't be surprised for a suspension to come down while he's injured, and they'll figure something out because that's how it works with Patrick Mahomes. But no, I think that he's going to be the primary receiver for Patrick Mahomes. I do believe that that's real. I know you've got your concerns about his overall game, but once you pair it with Mahomes and you pair it in Andy Reid offense, a lot of those concerns wash away from me. And at the end of the day, it's a guy that can catch 10 to 15 passes and put up 150 yards with 2 touchdowns every single week.
Yeah, like I could move him into the top 12, and I know it's crazy. Like right now, I'm just gonna keep him wide receiver 18 because like I don't I don't think he's even going to be affordable at this point now. If you want to, like, what are you willing to pay for him on your future of your team? If you're a rebuilder, are you going to play multiple first for him? I don't think he's at. I'm having a hard time separating the talent from the situation because again, I saw Juju Smith-Schuster, and I know that he's a little bit more talented than Juju Smith-Schuster, but I use a little bit sparsely. I'll quit hating. Victoria, to you. Are you concerned about long-term future? And let's say in Dynasty, are you just like, especially now after 4 weeks, if you're 0 and 4, are you willing to like empty the clip and go out and get Rashi at this point?
I just wonder if there's people out there that have him that are worried about that suspension waiting until next season to drop down, and maybe they're worried about the injury and what he'll look like after that. And maybe that's someone that you can target there in the trade. I'm not worried about it at all. At all. I'm on Jeff's side here. I mean, we saw last season that uptick in performance. We were worried that he was just a slot guy, just a slant boy, but third overall in yards after the catch this season. Unfortunately, I feel like I jinxed this, guys. I talked about ranking Rashee Rice wide receiver 1 overall for rest of the season, obviously for redraft, just this week on the Fantasy Football Guys show with Dave and Alfredo, and I have jinxed it here. But honestly, he's among some of the best here with CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and the per route run usage. I mean, he was set up so well this season with the aging Travis Kelce, the injured Hollywood Brown, and obviously rookie Xavier Worthy coming up. But the scene was set, and I'm pretty disappointed in this injury. We still are waiting on the news, though. I'm pretty perplexed here on these reports. Everyone thought ACL yesterday, and now trickling in slowly. They're not sure the severity of the injury, so I'm really curious to see what comes about for that.
Yeah, because it didn't. I mean, granted, we've seen him running perfectly fine and then just fall down, and they've torn an ACL. So like, it didn't look like Nick Chubb, but Nick Chubb's about to play it. Jonathan Brooks isn't. So like, what do I know about modern medicine? Um, and again, it honestly the injury doesn't bother me at all. It's more that I just like I know you said he's like well, everyone thought he's just a slant boy. He's technically still just a slant boy. He's just like an incredibly efficient slant boy, and like again, I think he's perfectly fine. I just have a hard time paying for players that are situation dependent. And to give more context, guys, on wide receiver 18, he's probably going to move up to like closer to like wide receiver 12. I only moved the guys that we talked about that I knew were like I needed to glaringly move. Like we kind of talked about on the show if you've listened a couple of times. But if your first time, In Dynasty, I only intentionally move my rankings about once a month unless something drastic happens because it's Dynasty. We're not redraft. We think ahead. We're slow boys. With
Is
that being
I want to real is
go
Tyreek
ahead.
Hill situation dependent?
No,
Ooh.
How many yards he's got at halftime
that's
with Tyler
that's
Huntley at
bad.
quarterback?
That's bad situation though.
Yeah,
I will
situation.
say
That's the situation.
it is. It is. That's fair.
Everybody's situation dependent.
Not just a Jefferson though. Not barely Jamar Chase. You saw
He's
him. I
never
mean,
had a
you
bad
look.
situation. So
Are you adjusting? Is it
well,
worth adjusting your ranks if two was out for the season? Jagger, you said you're not adjusting it unless there's a
I
big.
mean, Tyreek already lowered him from the two injury and already had him like in Dynasty. We've already like most of us who listen to this show. He's been like top 24 at best because like we know that the ceiling's gonna fall off that. And like I know a lot of people who come in here who are redraft guys or in the comics just like Tyreek Hill, what's going on? And I'm like, guys, he's like 55 years old in like dynasty football years. It's like, chill out. And then it happens. And then I'll miss on a guy like Stephon Diggs who apparently just didn't care at the Bills anymore. So it's just the way she goes. I'll keep fading old guys. With that being said, though, like Tyreek Hill's not ahead of him. It's guys that I will move down eventually. Like Garrett Wilson, those bags are heavy. I'll move him down a little bit. I'll move Rashee Rice ahead, just because like I'm realizing that situation is more like a franchise plaguing thing. That like as soon as you get you put on the green jets, you just turn into I almost did a sorry Joe. You almost just rot. You turn into the poodoo. So it's pretty bad. Anyone else on Rashee Rice before we pay some bills? Let's pay some bills, folks. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. Go over to footballguys.com/plans where myself, Jeff, Victoria, we all write articles for you to consume when you're on the toilet when I read articles. And then we got some other big things going for you. We have the GOAT tier where a few of us, like me and Jeff, I think on one random Mondays or on all Mondays, I'm not really sure, we will sit and talk to you for 30 minutes and answer all of your questions for Dynasty in person. By in person, I mean via computer. I don't want you guys to come to Colorado to see me. Jeff, you got anything new and cool coming up on articles?
Just dropped the Monday roundup on this past Monday, so that's out there. It runs in about 7,000 words a week or so, and it's got your waivers, it's got your backfield hierarchy, targets, stats of the week, everything you could possibly imagine. And so I do that every week.
Victoria, you got anything new?
I'm just wrapping up Victoria Week here with y'all at the Dynasty show, so nothing new upcoming, but looking forward to the rest of the season.
We will fire her as soon as this week's over. With that being said, folks, all I got coming for you is your Dynasty Big Board coming up, and I'm about to drop the top 100 prospects. That's actual football stuff. That means I'm going to talk about boring stuff like offensive linemen and safeties. Anyway, that's all the boring stuff that I make the medium bucks for. We'll go back to a riser. We got two Bills fans here. How about your boy Khalil Shakir? I moved him up to wide receiver 26. Jeff, you have him at wide receiver 31. That makes me right now the most bullish out of the two. Victoria, where are you with Khalil Shakir? Do you think he's the guy right now in Buffalo, or are you worried that it's eventually become the Keon Coleman show?
No, I think he is the guy there. I think the problem here is even just looking at snap share, seeing Shakir's behind Keon, even Mac Hollins. Like we should see this change as long as the injury he suffered last night doesn't affect his playing time. But he's leading the entire Bills offense, which I love. But then again, it's 19 targets through these 4 weeks. So I wish those could come up more. That's why I'm probably right in the middle of you guys in terms of rankings. But this kid does well with the targets that he gets. I don't know if you guys saw that after catching his first target last night. That was the 28th target in a row. He surpassed Michael Thomas for the most consecutive targets caught by a wide receiver since at least 1991. So I love that stat. And I think he should still continue to see that kind of Cole Beasley treatment. He's tied for wide receiver 25 in points per game right now. I love all that. I just would love to see an uptick in targets there. So I'm probably right in the middle of you guys.
Yeah, I
Jeff?
think that's the biggest killer there has been really week 2 and week 3. He was on pace for massive games, and the second half he just didn't need him at all because they had beat the Dolphins and they'd beaten the Jaguars to the point where they barely needed to play starters in the second half. This past game against Baltimore was a mess. I mean, you're doing a little bit dirty here, bringing up the Bills here with 2 Bills fans after this Baltimore whatever happened on Sunday Night Football, but that was one of the worst Bills games I've seen in a while. But we did see Shakir have the injury, but also get loose downfield and make a big play that almost converted to the end zone. I think right now you're just kind of hoping, like Victoria said, you're hoping for more volume. And that's my only hesitation. I do think longer term when you're looking dynasty, I mean, I like what I've seen. We've seen flashes from Keon Coleman. We saw a couple more flashes last night. We've seen him in situations that you can see the growth can potentially be there. And then we've seen flashes also from Dalton Kincaid. So thinking longer term in dynasty, I like Shakir quite a bit. Am I sure that he's going to be the guy over Kincaid and over Keon Coleman long term in Dynasty? I'm not quite sure. And what's the real ceiling here? I would like to see him flirt with a big ceiling before I really kind of push him up there into borderline wide receiver 1 type territory.
Yeah. And then Jeff, you know me well enough that I'm pretty strict on the things that like I see on tape, and like borderline. I want to say to a fault. Like every year, I just try to like analyze my own analysis and make adjustments. But like I see the big playability, like start to check on the field. Like now I just need him to start separating and earning more targets for Keon Coleman. So like that's where I'm at. Like right now, Khalil Shakir, I have him ahead just a little bit. And that's because I just think that Shakir is a skilled player. I remember looking at him at Boise State, and I brought this up with you last week, and especially after seeing the next game. Realistically, what's the difference between Zay Flowers and Khalil Shakir?
Right.
If you really think about it. And, and I love Zay Flowers. This is no hate to Zay Flowers at all. I'm just saying, like, more about, like, if our complaint is that Khalil Shakir needs more work, and then we've had, like, these weird, fluky Buffalo games where, like, Buffalo hasn't ever had a complete offense that I've seen now, where they have a running game that can be relied on. They have receivers. They have a tight end. Now they have all that. I don't know what happened, like you said, at the Ravens, but I'm willing to bet on that.
Yeah, and I think it's the type of thing. We're in year 3 now, and maybe we are really in that year 3 breakout. But I think wanting to see a player with lower draft capital like he carried put a full season together is kind of where I land before I really get aggressive on him.
Yeah. Anything else on Shakir, Victoria, before we move on to some depressing news?
No, let's move on. I love depressing news.
Depressing news, guys. Guess who's back? It's Derek Carr. He's the exact same player that he's always been, guys. And I actually mean that as a positive and negative. I knew Derek Carr was better than what we saw last season, but also knew that he wasn't as good what we saw at the beginning of the season. And my general conclusion is that Derek Carr is a matchup-dependent quarterback. Always has been. Always will be. Victoria, we'll start with you. Where are you at on Derek Carr, specifically in Dynasty? You're still trying to get rid of him. I'm sad I couldn't get rid of him the 2 weeks that he looked for real. So.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. He's actually my QB2 in a Superflex Dynasty League, and boy, was I excited to watch those first 2 weeks. I thought I was tanking, and all of a sudden, Derek Carr is back, baby. Week 1, second in QBR, first in completion percentage. Week 2, keep it rolling. Second in air yards, third in QBR. Oh my goodness, week 3. 34th in completion percentage and QBR. Yes, you heard that correctly. 34th overall. Just turned back into a pumpkin, like you said, Jagger. So I'm with you. I'm kind of upset I didn't push him when he had those couple games. Sparkle was in my eye there. That pick 6 this week, that was just kind of unacceptable. Just turning back into that pumpkin. So yeah, I'm with you in the fact that he's super matchup dependent. But I mean, he's got the weapons, and I do think that they'll find their rhythm again. I love the new coaching staff there, so I'm not terribly worried. But yeah, I think all that value we lost there, Jack, not trading him there.
Yeah, wait for that Panthers game again, and then we'll get another window. Get a third out of somebody. Jeff?
So Eric McCoy, his center, has groin surgery and he's going to be out a couple weeks. And I think when you really look at kind of where it fell off, playing against Jalen Carter just wrecked that game plan from the interior for the Eagles and really just blew up the Saints inside. And then Grady Jarrett and the Falcons, the defense on the Falcons also kind of had some work there. And so I think there's a reason why it's fallen off, and it's been the absence of his center, that one of the best offensive linemen on his team. And I think that's not a small loss there. And so when I look at it, I mean, he's still got the pieces around him. He's still got Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Alvin Kamara are capable of big production. McCoy should be back in 6 to 8 weeks or so. And so I think that there are still reasons to be optimistic and to believe that what we saw was not all fool's gold the first 2 weeks. But you are right that those were great matchups those first 2 weeks, and difficult matchup, especially the way that Jalen Carter worked week 3 against these Saints.
Yeah, and Jeff gave me the perfect opportunity to be a nerd for a second, guys. Little Jagger Football 101. This is kind of why we've seen the shift in importance of the interior rush, not just like on the edge a little bit. Specifically, when you get pressure up front, you've already created an issue for the quarterback because you've pushed the pocket and you made it easier for your edge guys. So like when you see me in like a big board, I'm going to have someone like Mason Graham over another edge rusher like you guys may like Jackson Pierce, because the NFL is going to want someone who could push that pocket specifically from like the 3 technique or 5 technique. So whenever you see those matchups and like you see like someone center down, it's incredibly important. And in most cases on offense, your center communicates to the rest of your offensive line as well. So it's, if there's like the third worst position to lose on your offense, it's center. And then that piece of nerdiness is done. And that's enough Derek Carr talk. Another one, a little depression here if I was a Patriots fan, is Rhamondre Stevenson. I still have him as RB12. Jess, you have him as RB20. A lot of it is he has a contract. I've been a little less bullish on like the age, or yeah, a little less bullish on the age factor, and I know his volume, and I'm betting on next year. And Rhamondre Stevenson is kind of like the running back side of the Derek Carr dice, meaning that I think he's going to be matchup dependent. Like the fumbles are a bit concerning, but I mean, they're still going to give him the ball because the entire offense is concerning. Jeff, you have him at RB20. Is this concern for long term as well because of like the fumbles, or is it just like you think the Patriots are going to take 3 years to even be like worth it? Or both.
He's 20.
Could be both.
Well, I mean, when we were talking about Rashee Rice, you were talking about getting ahead of the market. And I think when you're looking at Rhamondre Stevenson, yeah, he had a great week 1, and everything else has been not great. And he's 26 years old. Yes, he's signed, but if he comes out here and we can't even put him into our lineups in redraft leagues, or you're not feeling great about starting him in those deep dynasty leagues, and he's going to be 27 years old, where's the value in that? And you might be a great bounce back candidate, but we see these guys all the time, like a James Conner a year or 2 ago, or you're seeing, different players of that ilk that have we've seen them be productive in the past, but then they fall into a little bit of uncertain situations. The bottom falls out and you're never recovering value on that. So that's where I'm putting him as a back end running back 2 relative to sitting around the same areas of a guy like Aaron Jones or somebody like that, because what's to say Aaron Jones is not very good this year and also still good next year.
I just bought Aaron Jones because I'm like, okay, I've seen enough. Victoria, Where are you at on Rhamondre? Specifically, I mean, like running back, we have a little bit more rest of season mentality with this position. So
I'm probably leaning more with Jeff, just because like you already made the comparison similarly to Carr. He was looking great to start the season, and then, I mean, that was a gut-wrenching 0.0 or 0.3 points performance on the year on that matchup. That was just awful. He's tied for 23rd in receptions, which is where a lot of his fantasy production has come from in the past. And yeah, on top of that, the fumbling issue, a fumble in every single game this season. And then you start to wonder how this offense might look if they throw Drake May at the helm instead. Maybe you'll see more dump offs, this and that, but it's still going to be that same offensive line. And that's what's scary. I mean, they're not going to be a productive offense. I don't see them being a productive offense for the rest of this year. And that's really the only thing that's got me hanging on here is that contract. They have that potential out, not till 2027 for the lower dead cap. So, yeah, he's just an okay guy here for me.
me as a and I'd like to say I'm a pretty rational like Patriots fan. I'm not like one of those guys that's like a pure homer, but like they just love Rhamondre. And then like me, it's the offensive line and not the player. And I know what's changed my mind on running back age is like we're all a little bit better as a human race at taking care of our bodies, and that extends all the way up to even being an athlete. And I think that we look at Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara, you know, this was like the year of the old man. So like Ramondre being 26 and him being fairly low mileage in college, I'm not concerned about the age factor, but like definitely that offensive line. It's hard to repair an offensive line in one go. If we look at the Steelers, they've only just now gotten a competent O line, and that's taken about 3 off seasons. And it's a if you think about like the bust rate on offensive linemen, it's pretty high. I mean, the NFL's hard in general, so that's my biggest concern there. And like I said, I if one reason I have an RB12, a lot of these guys that we kind of put up high is a projected value that they're going to be something, and that's something I've made a mistake with running back. So I want guys on contracts that and that does a lot for me. Like this is my second year of like, well, they drafted him and he has the draft capital, and now like Tank Bigsby, he got 90 yards, but that's like 9 points, and I don't think he got a catch. So in PPR, what does that do for you?
Where
And
where do you have Braylon Allen ranked?
too low probably. I think I moved him up to RB like the 30s ish,
Okay.
or like maybe 40s or 50s. I don't know where to value him either because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he's a backup on the Jets. And like whatever it says on the film, and this is where I hate we chase advanced stats too much, because like I know what all's there, but at the end of the day, he's on the F and Jets. Like he's never gonna be in the red zone. Like that dream is dead for me. After I saw a team that didn't throw for 60 yards, and then you put up 9 points. And I know the answer is Nathaniel Hackett. Anyone with the big football brain knows that it's Nathaniel Hackett that's the problem. But he's Aaron Rodgers' emotional support bear. So, like, what is he going to go away? I'm not sure. I hope. So, where do you have him at?
Running back 15. So
What?
yeah. And I'm prepared to say that maybe I do dynasty rankings wrong for running backs. That might be a weak point of mine, but
Yeah.
I defer hard towards youth when
Age?
it
Yeah.
comes to. I'm very much an ageist, but also I think when you look at running back, once you get past difference making guys of like running back 8, 9 or so, everything beyond that is just kind of a hodgepodge that you're throwing things in, and you're hoping that you got 2 starters for 1 week is kind of where you're landing. So guys like a Zach Charbonnet gives you 2 weeks here or there, or a guy like Braylon Allen might give you a couple weeks or like that. And if you've built a deep running back room with 8 to 10 of these guys in there, then you kind of piecemeal together production, or you go the hero route and you have a Brees Hall or somebody like that. But like a lot of these kind of guys, like Rhamondre Stevenson is a guy that I would probably be looking to recoup value when I can, and to grab another dart. Like give me a when I can sell high, give me a first round pick and the next Bucky Irving or something like that, and I'll happily move along my merry old way and not really rely on guys that I don't think are difference making talents at running back that are just kind of buying temporary volume.
That is pretty bullish. This is a hard divide because I feel like I've crossed to the dark side. Because like old guys won this year. Maybe I'm pivoting too hard, but like like my biggest L's this year are on ageism. Like James Conner is still like that dude's the F a Terminator. I don't think he needs ACLs.
Which is
Like
fine. Like I can value having him. That doesn't mean I'm going to rank him high, I guess, is kind of the way that.
that's fair, but like
Fair.
and that's like Victoria. I'm gonna kick it to you because you need to be divide here, and I'll ask you the loaded question. Is like at what point is like in Dynasty do we just need to rank points over like projected value? This is me like my soul is at like an impasse right now. So
It's probably got to be a little bit of both. I know that you probably hate to hear that answer. It's
I
got to be a
do.
little bit of both, because I am not in the camp all the way to RB15 for Braylon Allen quite so, but I'm probably, yeah. I mean that's pretty dang high, Jeff. Um, But yeah,
20 years old. He looks like a stud. I mean,
that's the thing is like,
he is a baby.
Yeah, and he's amazing, and I wish he was not stuck in Jets purgatory. I mean, the Cowboys, what were you doing? Right there. He was right there for the taking.
And I guess
maybe that's where I
defer long-term to situations changing in Dynasty and betting on talent a little bit more, and especially young talent that I believe in. Situations change, and I'm okay punting points because I grab Jordan Mason, or I grab Jerome Ford when he's free, or Zamir White when he's free, like something like that, and you just kind of keep backfilling off of that.
Yeah, I mean, I keep buying Garrett Wilson, so I don't know. Maybe I can't really judge you like too hard. So, speaking of people that I should stop buying, I thought this was fun to put on here because you broke my heart all off season on your tour of the Kyle Pitts hate. Me and Jeff still have him at tight end 5, but to be fair,
guys,
it's like, who else you gonna put there in Dynasty, Victoria? It's all bad.
Johnny Munt, maybe.
No, get out of here.
I'm here for the comedic relief. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
No, I feel like I tweet this every year. Kyle Pitts is fetch, and you guys keep trying to make fetch happen. It's just year in, year out. It's just not happening for him. I think even just this season alone's route share percentage is dropping from week 1 to week 4. 79% has dropped to 58% in this recent weeks. The snap share has gone down similarly. He's tight end 17 overall. It's looking rough. Not to mention, Ray McLeod has more targets this year than Kyle Pitts. I don't know if you wanted to hear that or not, but it's true and disgusting. So I don't know what their game plan is there, but I hate it. He's got the talent. I just don't know why he's year in, year out feels like he's in the doghouse. So realistically, are we all really bad at evaluating that talent, or is it just kind of that coaching different mentality of not using him in that center of the field there? Maybe a little bit of both.
Is it because he wears a life jacket when he swims, and the coach is
like,
"Oh
my gosh, I forgot
the coach
about
was like,
that.
nope, I can't. Your aura is too low, my guy. It's like the coach physically fades him."
I totally forgot about that. Oh my goodness.
Jeff, give me hope. He looks faster downfield. I'm like, wow, when you give him the ball, look at that. Look at that fast big guy be fast and big. Maybe we could utilize that. Where are we wrong?
When you have him play tight end, yeah, he's a very athletic tight end that can win downfield. When you have him play wide receiver, he's like old Andre Johnson that couldn't get open for the Colts. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's a brand new coaching staff. It's brand new quarterback. They're trying to figure some things out there. I think that plays into it. You talk about Ray-Ray McLeod, and really when you look at both Kyle Pitts and Drake London, Ray-Ray McLeod is probably the best player after the catch that they have on their entire team. And so if you're going to have some short to intermediate plays where you want to get a player the ball in his hands to create, that's not Drake London and that's not Kyle Pitts. That's Ray-Ray McLeod. And so that's where, yeah, I hear you, but it's like I think they're just trying to figure out. I think injury's been part of it. I think 2022 he was hurt at the end of last year, and then at the end of 2023 he said, "I never felt right." And I think when you watch him move relative to when he was moving as a player that got drafted top 4, he's not moving like the same guy. So I don't know if he's just never not going to be right, or he's still 23 years old. There's still time. We've still. Like I go back to Evan Ingram and everybody kind of wrote Evan Ingram off as being just an injury guy. And then when you look at his stats, he's missed like 2 games in the last 5 years up until like these last 2 weeks. And I think the book gets written on some of these guys early and it doesn't turn out to be that true. I remember Matthew Stafford, those first couple of years was labeled as a guy that just couldn't stay healthy. And then he strung together 10 years where he never got hurt and he put like major numbers up. And so that's, I don't know. We're playing Dynasty, and I still believe that the talent is there. I still look at a tight end landscape that's just decimated. That, we're talking about making Tucker Kraft a top 8 tight end or Kate Otten a top 12. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Like, I'm still going to bet on like the guy that went top 4 in the draft that still has potential upside.
Yeah, that's like the names that you brought up, I was gonna say it's like it reminds me a lot of Evan Ingram. Like anyone who knows better knows how Evan Ingram should have been used, and like that was actually Evan Ingram was the opposite. It was like stop using him like a tight end. He's a slot wide receiver. Just
Yeah.
put him in the slot and let him play slot. And it's time after time we see these with these coaches. I'm not saying that me and Jeff can go out there and then put up like a 40 game offense, but I do think that like maybe scheme up some classic spider Y banana for your tight end who you drafted as a tight end, and I'm just saying just try it maybe. Zach Robinson, I've watched you since OSU as a child, so now that you're offensive coordinator, just do this for me. You didn't win much at OSU. Do this for me.
To be clear, the other OSU.
The other OSU. I'm sorry, Oklahoma State. I forget that. Ohio State should just be Ohio State. Let OSU be whatever the F they are. I've almost slipped up a couple of times. I shouldn't do the other pod before I come and do this. Next, we're going to go to a huge riser, a big victory lap that I won't stop because I told everyone that Jayden Reed was good a long time ago. And I had a lot of Jayden Reed. I still have a lot of Jayden Reed. And I told you to sell Jayden Reed, and I'm wrong on that. And I told you it wasn't because he wasn't good. I just told you that like maybe all of the Packers are good. Turns out Jayden Reed's even better than we thought. I have him at wide receiver 15. That was me moving him up. And again, that was just like a spot move up. I didn't like try. So like Jeff's wide receiver 9, not even mad. Like I can't like argue with that because you said a name weeks ago, Jeff, Antonio Brown, and I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy. Victoria, where are you at? We're obviously very bullish with Jayden Reed.
I'm with y'all. I like being bullish. I've seen a lot of tweets, even just after yesterday's flawless performance there. A lot of tweets today asking, Jayden Reed, I love the talent. I'm struggling where to rank him in Dynasty, and I don't see why you guys would be wrong here to be bullish. I love the kid. I love the talent. 5th in total receiving yards this year so far, even just playing 2 games without Jordan Love. That's behind only Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, the legendary Juwan Jennings, and Justin Jefferson. Okay, this kid's doing things. 5th in yards per reception, 4th in yards after the catch. All of this on 17 receptions. Okay, the efficiency, the connection is there with Jordan Love. It's just incredible. So I'm with you. I'm bullish on Jayden Reed.
Yeah, for me, it's the deep ball I saw, and I saw the red zone fade, and I'm like, okay, like I know that's crazy, but like that I hadn't seen on tape because like Michigan State they threw like 4 times a game that when Jayden Reed was there, I'm pretty sure every one of those passes was great, and he was always 15 yards away from the other guy. So, but just seeing him really become a complete guy both after the catch with the ball in his hands, it's just find ways to get this guy a target. And then like again, I still like Romeo Dubs and still think he's a buy, but I definitely think he's the complement here, So
Yeah, Romeo
anything else?
Dubs is the Gabe Davis of the offense. I mean,
Don't say that.
I was
I think
just
the
gonna
counting
say
numbers
that.
are going to be there. Like it's kind of one of those that the counting numbers end up there at the end of the year, and you're like, well, when did I feel good starting him? I'm not sure that I ever felt, but he also ended up with 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. Okay, but Jayden Reed is a difference-making talent, and I'm really kind of frustrated with myself because he obviously flashed that week 1 that we were gifted the greatest buy window that you're ever going to be gifted because we had so many questions about what the Packers offense was going to be. We saw what it was going to be week 1. It's going to be Jayden Reed as the primary playmaker. It's going to be Tucker Kraft taking every snap at tight end. And we were gifted the Malik Willis experience for 2 weeks. And I'm kicking myself because I should have been out there buying these guys with Malik Willis at quarterback but apparently we live in a microwave economy when it comes to Dynasty, and people are ready to jump on value or jump off if Malik Willis is playing quarterback for 1 game. I really dropped the ball, and I'm just saying I'm not going to do that anymore. I believe in Jayden Reed.
Well, I told you, Jeff, that like I'm gonna be insufferable because it's like what I've learned is like the guys that I scout and say that are good,
Yeah.
I'm eventually right. Most of the time, it takes me a little bit to get there.
I mean, man,
But like, yeah, like
welcome to the club.
I saw Josh Downs and everyone was just like, Josh Downs is doing this. I'm like, yeah, he's been doing that forever. I told everyone that like him falling to the 3rd round was like criminal for the NFL to let him fall to the third round. Like I thought that was ridiculous. So it's like that's why like I will keep saying that like you should buy Garrett Wilson, you should buy Tank Dell, you should buy Kyle Pitts because it's like eventually I'm going to be right, and I know I'm going to sound like sorry Joe, I'm just going to use this one. I'm going to sound like an asshole up until it happens, and then occasionally I won't. I'll just be wrong on a couple of guys. A couple of guys just suck, but that's rare.
There were a lot of
Sorry,
subtweets
Joe.
about Michael Wilson when I said I like Michael Wilson back in 2 winters ago, and lo and behold, he's a day 2 pick.
Yeah. Mentally, I'm already preparing like my guys for next year. I was like, here, like I'm like preparing iron. Here's the guys that I think is going to be really good, and then everyone's going to tell me he's terrible for some reason. You know, Xavier Restrepo, Josh Downs 2.0. He's going to fall the third round. I'm going to love him, but I know we need to end it because we're already getting to the prospect talk. That's it for the Risers and Fallers episode. We're not doing a trade episode this week, folks. We are going to actually tell you what to do or if you should trade and, you know, all those things, not just blindly tell you buy this guy, sell. You know, we're not Jim Cramer, you know, smashing mugs here. We're going to break down a couple of our rosters from our listener league. Victoria isn't in those leagues, so we're going to give her Joey's team so we can bash on it together, and she'll be his proxy. And I picked one random lucky viewer. Actually, you're just 3-0. You're not lucky. You're just winning. So anyway, that's coming the rest of the week. I'm Jagger. That's Jeff. And that's Victoria. And we will see you next time.